Welcome into a special edition of Warchant TV. Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year. How's it going? We're here for Transfer Portal Live on Warchant TV because 'tis the season. Now that January 1st is passed, that means that kids can be on campus once again as they're looking for the new destination at the transfer portal. Tonight's program is brought to you by State Farm agent Russ Voorhis, and I'm joined by lead transfer portal analyst who is just thawing out from being at Doak Campbell today, outdoors for most of the day, Michael Langston. Michael, good evening. Happy New Year. How are you?
I'm good. Long day. Very good New Year. I had a good New Year, and certainly FSU's keeping things really keeping me pretty busy. Being out there at FSU a lot, but very productive day, and certainly a lot to get into. But I'm glad to be in my house now, thawing out a little bit because that was a long day of just being around it. But certainly some good stuff that we'll get into, and there's a lot to go over.
There is. So, for any specific questions you might have, I mean, I think everybody knows the main players here that Florida State's in on right now. But if you have questions for Michael, please file those away here in the live chat. We'll get to you over the course of the next hour. If it takes an hour, if we answer all your questions and it's 8:45 or 8:50, then we'll stay that long. But at least till 9 o'clock here, if there are still questions to be answered, we look forward to getting those questions from you in the live chat. As always, hit the thumbs up underneath this video if you're watching on YouTube. And subscribe to the channel. It's absolutely free. Michael, the last couple of days, Florida State's taking full advantage of the portal visit window opening back up. I think it was just before Christmas it closed, and now come on down. And Florida State is it's more than a half dozen kids, I think, have been on campus the last couple of days. But take it wherever you'd like to go in terms of the most prominent, chronological, your pick. What are some things you've seen the last couple of days as the portal window is back open?
Well, I think it's pretty clear in this cycle, based on the visits, what I've seen, they still want to nail down that edge position really hard. You really focus on a lot of guys. You got Chris Murray, who's come in, I think, the other day. He's going to visit again tomorrow. He's out of Sam Houston State. He's probably one of the most coveted guys. They certainly want him bad. I saw him several times today. I've heard the visit is going, pretty well. They're pretty happy as far as kind of how that's trickling as far as the visit, and certainly had him on campus. They already have several guys in the fold. You already have James Williams. Certainly got Deontay McCray. So they got them, and there's a few others that are on there. My mind's kind of slipping of the names on there, but yeah, that's kind of been the position. I think like you've seen a heavy focus on of FSU really, you're really wanting to get a few more, I would say two or three, more edge guys to really solidify that position. And then it's clear they want a linebacker. They have multiple guys on campus. I think Georgia Southern linebacker was certainly out there. Marquez Trent Watson. I want to make sure I get that right. He visited, and then you also had Caleb, and I'm going to say this because it's probably going to surprise you, Tom. It's actually pronounced Law Valley. So like the valley and the hills. So that's what I was told of how it's pronounced. So he's on campus. I will give a little tidbit. I do feel pretty good that I think FSU is looking pretty good with Caleb. Marcus, I believe he left, but I didn't know if it felt like there was a push like I thought there would be. They do have several linebackers on their roster that they're pretty happy with. That certainly they have valued as far as returning. I still think he's a guy to keep an eye on, but you didn't hear that like push where it was over the top. But Caleb is certainly one that I feel like is likely you'll see him in this class, barring something surprising.
Yep.
I've already put an RPM pick for him. I think FSU is looking pretty good. I briefly texted with him. He finished his visit. Credit to our Irish FL. He went out there, waited out there a couple hours for me. Caleb told him, "Hey, call me." I did, and he texted me back and said, "Hey, when I get back home, I'll hit you up." So I do think that one looks pretty good. So I would say those two positions are certainly ones, and then certainly they want to get a wide receiver or two more in this class. They already have Deuce Robinson. I think we know his dad pretty well on this show, but Deuce is a really good addition. And then I think they want to get another productive guy. Might even get two. Traylon Ray visits tomorrow, so that's one that to keep an eye on. He's a Tallahassee native that was pretty productive at West Virginia. Did endure an injury on the ankle, but I think he's rehabbing very well. That's one that I think that they like, but they're going to study. But he's one I know that is certainly in the picture for them. And then you have the surprise visit, which they're trying to get a squirrel. I see squirrels all in my yard all the time, but this is the squirrel that FSU wants. Most squirrels you see, you don't really want them to bug you, but this is one that FSU certainly wants. And Squirrel White out of Tennessee, very productive, I think, receiver that had to go through a few injuries, but I think he's one that they're very is a very productive one. Got there today, this afternoon. Going to visit again tomorrow. That's one that I do feel there's going to be a pursuit for because I do think he kind of checks off the boxes that they like. So that's one that I'm certainly keeping an eye on. And I think the first day was pretty good. I think he arrived around there in the afternoon, around 3 or so. So that's one that they'll do. But I think that's kind of the general of the positions there. And then certainly I know that I'm gonna get a lot of questions about this guy. Is Rasul facing Utah State running back, one of the best running back in the portal. I will have a full story. You can go to the PRB. There's already an update on the visit. Tom, it went really well. It was very. I came away with a very positive feeling on just what the way he came across as we're in the freezing cold interviewing him around 7 o'clock. Got that done, and he was very straightforward. He really liked how genuine and straightforward FSU was about how they're going to utilize him, and very schematic. They were very clear about what they liked, and I think too. We hear this a lot. Running backs are really high on Gus Malzahn. They really love what his history is with running backs, and you really got a sense with that with Raw, and he really went into depth about that. That story should be up, later tonight. But I was I was expecting it to be positive. I was actually shocked because, like, truth be told, guys, a lot of these transfer guys do not interview. There's times where they just visit and they're gone, and he certainly took some time, visited with me, and we talked, and I was very intrigued and maybe a mildly surprised of how well I think it went, even when he's supposed to schedule to go to Alabama next, then I think North Carolina and Utah. I don't know what order that is in, but then he said afterwards, he's just like, I said, "Are you going to take those visits?" Said, "I want to just follow up," and he's like, "I don't know right now. I have to talk to my family." So that's not a bad thing. I would think that he's even thinking about it. So it tells you how impactful the visit was.
Yeah, for Faison, I'll start there. This is somebody who has over 300 carries the last 2 seasons, over 1,800 yards rushing the last 2 seasons at Utah State. Got 1 year to play, as I understand it. And I can understand why the question is there. Hawaii Noles says, why put resources into another running back? The room is pretty crowded. But, Michael, this is where the coaching staff is telling you clearly by their actions that they don't feel like they have everything that they need. Getting a guy like Chroma as a stud at a high school is going to be a big piece of the puzzle. But this tells me that Gus Malzahn and Mike Norvell are looking at their depth chart and they're saying, we got some guys we like, but we need somebody we can feature, a veteran we can feature. So I find that decision interesting. But look, the coaching staff is telling you what they think they need, and clearly they think they need this type of player.
I'm not surprised. My counter to that would be, yeah, there's a lot of talented guys, and I love Usman Chromo, coming in. I think he's phenomenal. I think Cam is really good talent. Even Sam Singleton, all these guys, they have different skill sets that make them good, but they're all young guys. They
Yeah.
don't have a featured guy that has really established themselves. So I think if you got an experienced guy to really take off. I think that is already done it, been there, and you get a guy like Faison. I think it really just changes your room a lot, and you feel a lot more comfortable in having an experienced guy. And I think that's a lot what they sold on this visit was, hey, you can be the guy that we have a plan for every one of these running backs, but we feel like you can make it really special and make a big impact. And I think it's something that they need a experienced guy, but I don't think it's so much, hey, they want to add a running back. I think they want to add face.
Right,
I mean, I think,
right, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, they're not just going to take a running back to have experience. They're taking a guy that they feel like really turns the corner and changes the room. And so it would have to be somebody that's significant. And I think he certainly does that.
The receiver room is interesting to me. Squirrel White is one type of player. Of course, he can help you as a specialist. But, Michael, this is your undersized but fast and explosive, productive player. He was hurt this season, so it limited his production, but
Yeah.
had an extremely productive year 2 seasons ago. And then Traylon Ray is a taller type. I mean, we've gone through that. We looked at the profiles, Director Ben
Hmm.
Spicer behind the scenes pulling those up. So it does seem like Florida State, again, you might have some younger players in the wide receiver room, but they're looking for proven talent.
Yeah.
They're looking for veterans to be able to help them right now. And it looks like that they're casting their net wide because White and Ray are not the same type of player. So they're telling you that they kind of need two different weapons in that receiver room. Two
Yeah, I
different.
think they want more production. I mean, let's just call it what it is. Lay it out straight. Last year receiver production was not good. It was very poor. So I think they want to get out there. They want to get some productive guys. Now, do I think they're very high on a lot of their young guys like B.J. Gibson and these guys? Certainly, I think they're very high on them. But I think to have an experienced group that kind of can help lead that. Certainly, if you added both Traylon Ray and Squirrel White to go along with Deuce Robinson, you've kind of really feel good about going into what you're going to have in the spring. So I think overall that's kind of the thing of they want to solidify kind of the production they would have. The maybe it may help those lead those young guys like LaWayne McCoy and those other guys that are certainly on the roster that are very talented. Elijah Moore. There's a lot of talented guys, but I think you do need something to lead it with experience and production, and I think that's a big reason why you've seen such a push with receiver.
We're going to get to your questions in a little bit here. I'm going to talk linebacker with Michael in just a moment. But tonight's program is brought to you by State Farm agent Russ Vorris, one of the OGs of Warchant.com in terms of sponsorship, somebody who supports Florida State athletics from top to bottom. If there's an organization that raises money for Florida State, Russ Vorris is certainly a part of that organization. So if you like supporting Noles, not just people who support Warchant, but people who support the program, Russ Vorris is your guy. If you live in the state of Florida, the state of Alabama, or the state of Georgia, he's got you covered. Anywhere in those three states, russvorhis.com is the website, russvorhis.com, russvorhis.com. I met Russ Vorhis, Michael, years ago at the old fermentation lounge because he liked some craft beer, but he liked talking about the Noles more. I know you've met Russ more than once, too,
I have.
and talked some ball with him. He's larger
Yeah.
than life, man, and he's a huge Noles fan.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can do any better of a guy that speaks from the heart and does things from the heart. And Russ is a great guy. I talked to him probably the last 2, 3 weeks. Even last week we talked, and just a very genuine, straightforward guy that um, like if you're looking for an insurance man, I mean that's you want to have people you can trust with stuff that matters, and it doesn't get any bigger than insurance in State Farm. So I think if you're looking for a Knoll that's going to look out for you and it's going to be genuine and direct, I think Russ is the guy.
And one more thing I want to say to Russ directly, as I'm a customer of his, but this is as a human being. Russ lost somebody close to him over the holidays, and just sending our warmest wishes from everybody at Warchant. We're with you, Russ, and we hope that your new year is a good one, just like we're wishing for everybody out there that we're wishing a good new year for you. And it starts with a good transfer portal class. So let's talk about linebackers a little bit here, Michael. LaValle from North Carolina. His brother is also a high profile recruit. Florida State was involved before he had committed to North Carolina. They at least had some decent contact with the LaValle family.
Hmm.
They do feel very good. Even I'm catching whispers that they feel very good about this particular recruitment.
They do. Caleb is a guy that I think a lot of people are like, "What? He didn't play a lot," but then you saw kind of his stuff went up a lot. 9 tackles in the bowl game. That was starting to get. You saw the reps and the PT start to get an uptick, and FSU was really early in this high school recruitment. I mean, they were the leader until I think he visited North Carolina. He probably saw a better situation there at that time. But overall, he's always loved FSU. He's from the Peach State in Georgia. He's always had a high view of Norvell. Saw them a lot this weekend, both him and his brother Noah, who they don't look too much different. It's pretty funny how close they look to each other, but certainly I'm feeling good about Caleb, and I'm certainly if they keep pushing like they have been with Noah, you got to believe you possibly could get a 2-for-1 there with both guys. Noah's a 2026 prospect that they also like. That I think the main thing with both of these kids, especially Caleb because he's more defined, is very good tackler in space. That's what he does really well. We've seen that a lot of times when you watch FSU. There's been missed tackles that you could count up consistently, and I think that's something where he's a guy that attracts you very much. As far as what he does in space and tackling, and just doesn't miss a lot of tackles. He's a very sure tackle guy, and it showed that in the bowl game when he had 9 tackles. So I think led the team. So I think overall. Be a very good depth addition for him. Not every kid, I people fall in love with this, like they think you just got to get every star, but some guys are just, there's situations where they need to be a fit to what you're going to do. And I think with Tony White and what they do with the team, I think Noah kind of fits what one of their weaknesses are, I think, with tackling, and he fits that.
Last question for me before we get to everybody else's questions. Michael, just wondering, being out there, not just from New Year's Day, but before New Year's Day,
Yeah.
it's not unusual to see Mike Norvell exit the Moore Center to greet transfer portal players or high school players as they come on campus. That's one of his signature things that he does. It's the warm welcome thing. I know with Deuce Robinson, there was a huge ovation as he walked in the building. I'm just wondering what other assistant coaches or new personnel you've seen that are mirroring, coming outside of Moore, making sure to say hello to kids and greet them as they come on campus.
Well, they do have Mike come out. Mike's kind of the guy, to come out there to the car and greet them. But when they go in, the entire coaching staff is right there. I see a lot of every one of the coaching staff. They're there. Doesn't matter what the position is. Sometimes you'll have a position coach will come outside and also greet him along with Mike. But Mike's usually the one that's the catalyst. But the main thing I see is, like, when you see it, it's like a full team effort when they're recruiting guys that they covet. And the entire staff is there. I've seen it where they're right there more and inside, and give a big ovation for all the guys that come in. And they really put a lot to the personalities and the relationships of this is what the culture is at FSU. And I think that's what Mike's established that. And I think a lot of these new coaches, they've certainly taken into it, and they like it, and you see it. And whether it's Herb Hand and the offensive lineman, or Terrence Knighton with the defensive lineman, you see a lot of your personality and relationship stuff that you hoped wouldn't be lost with the new staff, and it certainly doesn't seem like it is. And you hear that a lot with a lot of these visits, even with portal kids, and even the 2026 guys in recruits. Hear a lot about relationships, and I think that's something that they still feel strongly about, and they feel strongly about what these coaches add as far as their coaching abilities. But see that a lot when they're in more as far as I think it's a full team thing when it's a recruit that's on campus that they covet. Not just, I think in previous years we've seen it a little bit, but this is more standard. Everyone, the staff there, more than I can remember seeing, like, based on the last few years. It happens sometimes, but this one's more the whole staff is down there, and I'm talking about the sports staff, everyone. So I think it's very big joint effort.
For those of you that are just joining us, thank you very much for being here on Warchant TV. I'm seeing north of 600 on YouTube. If you're just joining us now, this is Warchant Transfer Portal Live. It's a chat with your questions for Michael Langston over the next 30, 40 minutes. So if you've got questions about the transfer portal, please file those now in the live chat. We'd love to have you. That goes for you too. If you're watching on Facebook, please put those questions in the chat, and we will get to those over the next stretch of time. We'll start with, I'm seeing it. This is a repeat question. So Florida Man in Alabama, Spartan Knoll, I see you both. How has the playoff and bowl season affected transfers, if any, / are players from recently eliminated playoff teams hitting the portal? To clarify for everybody, if there are no head coaching changes, you've got a 5-day window to enter. Just your thoughts, Michael, as these things develop and these games and teams get eliminated.
Yeah, I don't think it's drastic with the big teams yet, but certainly that's how they got Deontay McCray. He played a bowl game the night before. He was at FSU the next day, committed 2 days later. Welcome to the portal season, guys. There you go. I mean, that's how it works. But I don't think overall we're seeing a drastic out of the big teams yet. There's some that have entered, but I don't think it's drastically affected FSU as far as getting some major guys. I think you're starting to see more, like with Squirrel White, and he hadn't taken any visits. This is like the first visit, so tells you a lot about both sides and how they feel about each other. That there's mutual interest, but I think overall it's been more the lower tier schools of guys that they've gotten from that you see visiting more so than the big boys of teams that are in the playoffs. That you know I don't think we've really hit that stage yet.
Dale Jr. asks, is the O-line complete? Are they done with offensive line? What do you think?
I don't think they're done. I think they would like to add one or two. Now, do I think their focus is heavily this like January cycle? No, I think there's other positions. I think they're kind of saving that for the spring, and which makes a lot of sense when you think about what changes you could have and what guys could be there and what guys couldn't be there and stuff like that. So they're probably you wait on that, but I do think they would like to add one more, or maybe two at the most. But I think overall, I think they're close to what they wanted. I think they hit a home run with the four guys they got, all starters. I think they executed what they wanted. They got their center, got the tackles in there, and then you also got a guard in there with Medley. So I think they nailed it about as close as they wanted. Yes, there were misses in there that they were hoping they'd get, but overall, I think from the experience and the production standpoint, I think they hit on the number that I kind of circle, which I said three or four in this early cycle, and then you can add a few more if you need to. They might only add one more, so we'll see. But there isn't really a number yet. I don't think it'll be more than the one or two. I think that'll be it.
Just something I can answer here from Nopotal. As far as running backs next year, will Gus ride one guy? If so, who? If not, who's on the running back committee? Does a transfer running back get the majority of carries? All right, a lot of questions there about running back. Gus likes to have a bell cow. This is his trend. R.J. Harvey's been the guy for him at UCF the last several seasons. He developed into a 1,000-yard rusher. I think he was closer to 1,500 this year. He's at 1,577 for this year was R.J. Harvey. 2 years ago, when Harvey was a young player, they did do running back by committee. So it doesn't mean that Gus has to be one way. But we discussed this a little bit earlier. No Potal, if you just joined the program, they've got a kid on campus. He just was on campus from Utah State, Rasul Faison, who could very well be that bell cow. So we'll see. But Gus trending, he trends towards having one guy and not over substituting. Michael, what are your thoughts on that? Because for me, that was one of my pet peeves this year. It seemed like when Lawrence Toafili got a hot hand early, next thing you see, Cam Davis is in there, Sam Singleton is in there. I'm more of a featured guy first type player. What do you think?
I like that. I obviously I want to play a lot of them, but at the same time, I want to know who the feature guy is. I want to know what guy you can lean on, whoever that is, whoever that may be. Certainly, there's a lot of stable in there as far as young guys. Guys, I cannot tell you how excited I am to watch Usman Chromo running this offense. That is a guy you're going to love. So I think he's going to have a lot of say so in it. But I'm with you, Tom, that I kind of want to know. It doesn't have to be by a large number of reps, but I want to know kind of who the go-to guy is.
Yep, I agree. If it's a key moment in the game, you've got to it's not whose turn is it, it's who's our best player. I think that's the right way to go about it. Michael asks from Facebook, correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, but it seems like we're not looking for defensive backs. Are they comfortable with who we currently have?
I think they are actually looking for one, Michael. I don't think it's like highlighted as their top need or even considered a major need, but I do think they're keeping an eye on what's out there. I think if they see one that catches their fancy, they're certainly going to go after them. So I wouldn't just set it in stone that just because you don't hear a lot of buzz with them yet doesn't mean they're not evaluating. I know for sure they're evaluating defensive backs, and they're certainly looking at a lot of them, different kinds. But I think it has to be a special elite guy in their eyes that they'll go after. So I wouldn't be surprised if they add one in this class. Just if one fits there, especially the way the portal is running, we're probably over 8,000 guys in the portal that have entered. So I think certainly. I'm not saying that I envision it to happen in this January short cycle, but I do think they're very much looking at the DB position of at least adding one. I don't think it'll be more than one. I think it's just if they got one really good guy that they feel like solidifies their unit, I think they would take it.
Be interesting to see if that would be safety as well, just because you
Yep.
got a new safeties coach. So
Yep.
just a small development there because Pat Surtain is now the cornerbacks coach, specifically to that one part of the defensive
Right.
backfield. Brett Taylor asks, Michael, any idea if FSU is interested in Trey Williams from Clemson, defensive lineman graduate transfer who just entered the portal last couple of days?
I will have to check on that, Brett. I have not heard that name, frequently on my radar, and I've heard a lot of names. Doesn't mean that he's not on there because I frequently have to check. Sometimes I get these 1 or 2 days late, but I will check and see if I've heard something. I have not heard anything yet. I think the main guys that they've done are ones that we've covered that are probably on campus. Demonte Diggs is another one that I ran into. He's there from Coastal Carolina. He's on campus. So you have several guys, Chris Murray, who are already covered. I think is very coveted, but that's not one that I've heard that's mentioned to me yet. But I will check on that, Brett.
All right. Aaron Hughes asks, are we only going after one quarterback? Are we all in on Thomas Castellanos like that? From Aaron.
That's the guy.
All
I
right.
know. I know it's I think the appropriate word is polarizing conversation with Thomas. Um, I wrote a story. It's on Warchant, and it might still be on the front page. Is about the Elite Eight prospects that I thought were big additions for FSU, both the portal and high school. Check it out; it's in there. I got some text and emails about that Thomas wasn't in there, and I think overall he was close. By the way, people are wondering, he was my next guy that I will put on there, but I think it's the perfect fit of what they need. And a lot of times, it's not about just. Here's the thing: you're coming off a 2-10 season. You're not going to get material from Washington State or some top tier guy, um, but you can get a guy that is electric and is productive, and he can run the offense of what you're running. He's the fit that they need right now. And sometimes it's about winning right now. And he greatly increases your chances of winning when you have a guy like Thomas running that offense, especially if they can keep adding these weapons at receiver and running back. And he's already going to have some really experienced offensive linemen. So they're positioning everything around Thomas, and now they just got to piece it all together. But overall, yeah, Thomas is the guy I expect. That's the only guy that I see them going after, and I'm the more I think about it, the more I really like it, Tom, of this move of going after Thomas, because like I said, you come off a 2-10 season, you're not going to be able to sell that, oh, come to here if you've had like 35 touchdowns last year. You're not going to get a Cam Ward. You're not going to get that guy right now. Now, after Thomas, maybe if you decide to go in the portal again, that you can do that. But I don't think you can do that right now. And I think this was the best fit for what FSU needs. It's not about just getting the best overall player. I think overall he's everything. I just, the more I think about it, the more I study it, just I feel like you've got to have somebody that knows how to run what you want to run, and is comfortable. He's worked with Gus. He definitely Gus is very good with dual threat guys like Thomas, and I just think everything connects.
I agree there. We had this discussion a few videos back where I don't know that I would have gone with the Gus approach.
Yeah.
But if you're you get a player like this because it fits. So
Yeah.
you can't go the Gus approach and then go get somebody like DJU. You know what I mean? Like it has to fit.
And the other thing I would say, they tried your strategy, guys. The ones that are complaining about Thomas, they tried your strategy. They tried it with DJU. They tried it with Everett Golson. They tried it with multiple guys. You know what happened? They've all been failures with new guys. But when you get somebody that's similar to run your offense, it can work. Even Jordan Travis was one that they really didn't know what he would do, but they knew he was talented and he was a very good athlete, and he certainly loved FSU, was invested in it. And that's the other thing. Thomas is same with Jordan. He grew up a big FSU fan. He's invested. That's the other thing people don't talk about is like he's invested in the program. That's his school that he grew up loving, just like Jordan. So I think that's a big part too when you're getting a quarterback and not just a hired gun of 1 year that, hey, they can come in there and do it. I think you have to have somebody that invested, and I think when you look at it, like I said, I like it a lot. Doesn't mean it's going to work. I can, if it's a failure, then I'll take it. But Overall, I just think on paper it's the best move and the best fit for FSU. And like I said, they've tried that style. It didn't work. I mean, it's failed multiple times for FSU in going after transfer quarterbacks.
So we will get to questions about linebacker. Also, a recruiting question I see is worked in there into
Nice.
the chat. And people want to know, what about Squirrel White? Give us more details about Squirrel White. All that's coming in just a moment here on Warchant's Transfer Portal Live, presented by State Farm. Agent Russ Vore back in 15 seconds.
Contact Russ Vore for an auto quote today.
Next question comes from Keith, and he's talking linebackers here. Michael, I feel we need 2 more linebackers. I already have Stephon Thompson from Nebraska. Don't feel Omar Graham, Blake, or Cryer starting caliber. Your thoughts on where Florida State needs to go?
Well, I mean, I do agree with the first part of what you said, Keith. I do feel that 2 more would really solidify what they want to be. I don't agree with what you said about Omar Graham and not starting. If they, you're saying they are starting caliber. Okay, yeah, I agree with that. So I mean, I like the group they had. I mean, Juice Cryer is one that I think I loved what I saw from him last year. Omar Graham, I think early in his career, you're like, oh man, is this going to happen? Is it going to finally click in? This year, I think he was really good. Probably their best linebacker when you watched him. And I think overall, the best talented linebacker is Blake. Blake just does a little bit of everything. And like I said, they valued a lot of these guys. And I think if you can get 2 more to go along with it, add a Caleb and then add somebody else, I think that really fortifies that linebacker room. So I think it's a position that they certainly want to finalize to add 1 or 2 more. But overall, I really liked kind of some of the stuff I saw. And there wasn't much that I liked about last season, but I did like the linebacker play of what I saw and some of the things. And I think Blake's the guy that, if you're looking for the alpha dog, I think Blake's the guy that can be that guy.
Yeah, that was one of the things that about the back half of the season, I thought, oh, it's got a pulse. Some of these guys have a pulse, because they didn't. I'm not as bad as Jeff Cameron on the linebackers, but I can be pretty brutal on them.
I'm telling you.
You get a new set of eyes coaching, and I not just John Papuchis coaching the position, but Tony White influencing the position. You got new rules, new principles. Mm-hmm. You got to give everybody a clean slate, because there are some skill sets there that you can work with.
Yeah, and you're also using more. You're going to be using more linebackers, where before you're only using like 2. So it was kind of hard to evaluate. And Tony White's a former linebacker coach himself, so you got a guy involved in there. Then you have, I love the move with JP at linebacker. So I think it's going to be a good fit. So I think overall, you got a different principle of what you're going to do with your linebackers.
Jeremy is a cut to the chase guy, and he's trying to pin you down, Michael. Do they get Squirrel White? Where do you think?
Oh man, he just got on campus today. You're asking if you're already going to get the guy. I mean, I will say this, and I mentioned this earlier: the fact that he hasn't taken any visits, and this is his first visit, and it was set up pretty quickly. I'd say that gives me kind of a few warm and fuzzies, but and stuff I've heard from the visit's been good. You still got to finish it off for day 2. Let's see how that goes, but I do like that principle. So that's the one thing I can highlight. I love his game, and you can watch him play, and you can see why they call him Squirrel when you what he does in space. But overall, I think that's got to be encouraging when you're getting the first visit, because he's been in the portal for a bit. And he could have taken visits like right away, and FSU was the place that he jumped out, and Pete Nikos reported that really earlier today, and then bam, he was there. And I think the fact that they're moving so quickly, and he's originally from Alabama, so I think he's a kid that wants to get closer to home. I feel like that's a guy that FSU can get, and certainly Tallahassee's not a ton of long ways away from Alabama, so that kind of fits the principle of what he would like, getting closer to home. And I think FSU checks off a lot of stuff. When you look at separation on routes, is something they're weak on, and certainly I think with Squirrel he can definitely offer that, and certainly gives you some explosive playmaking ability in that slot place.
All right, time to switch ball caps for one question between the portal and high school recruiting. Jalen wants to know, I'm just now tuning in, but any word on Ty Haywood, 5-star offensive lineman?
He will officially visit FSU. He's a 5-star offensive tackle. I would say Michigan's the leader, going into this, we get into the January cycle, but he will officially visit FSU. And I've heard that the one threat to Michigan that concerns them is certainly would be FSU. From what I hear from a few Michigan peeps that I talked to, they kind of mentioned that because of Herb Hand, his experience, his development, what he does with development, and the fact that we've seen what FSU's offensive line looks like, and there's certainly a chance to make a very early impact. Plus, FSU was on him very early into the process in high school before things fell off the roof, so to speak. They were on him pretty well. Visited FSU unofficially. He liked them a lot, and he liked their principles and the stuff that they do on offense. So I think overall he's a shot that guy have a shot with. Now, is it going to be easy? No, it will be very challenging. 'Cause like I said, Michigan would be my favorite, but that's a guy that definitely is one of the top guys on their list. I think Chaston Brown is another one, and over there that they like a lot that I feel like is very attainable.
Nopo Tall says, I'll donate $20 to help get Haywood. Well, you know the website to go to, thebattlesend.com, Nopo. So there you go. They're doing pretty good work, I think, right now.
You're welcome, Ingram.
Yeah,
you're welcome.
There it is. Patrick, thank you for the contribution. What are your thoughts about the linebacker transfer prospect from Georgia Southern and FSU is hosting? That's Watson Trent, Marquez Watson Trent.
Yeah.
Michael, you covered that a little bit in the beginning, but for anybody who's just joining us now, what say you about that prospect?
Yeah, probably. Even though it is on the G5 level, a very productive backer, probably one of the most productive backers you will find. Now, how that translates to this level, it's always tricky with linebackers for me from G5 level to up. It's not like defensive ends, like when they got Jared Verse from Albany. It's kind of like when they jump out to you, they jump out to you, and certainly Jared did that against pretty much everyone he played. I think he played Syracuse, so you haven't played all those top tier teams, so you wonder how that transfers, and maybe that's kind of why we haven't heard the major push. Like I said, I didn't hear the major push for sure. I think he's visiting Nebraska next, but I think it's certainly FSU made it clear there's certainly mutual interest. It's just what level that goes to with the value and NIL, how much they value him is really my question, Tom, when I look at Marquise, because it's not about skill. It's about, is this worth the value that we would put into to play at a school like FSU? We know he's productive, but it's not about how productive he is at Georgia Southern. It's how productive he's going to be at Florida State. So can he do that with us? And I think that's really what they'll have to decide as far as the NIL value and go from there. I think that will really dictate, because I think that's a guy they can get. I think if they value him, I think there's a good chance they could get him, but it's really just how much they value him.
Yeah, so again, if you're watching on television, well, I mean, people do watch on their TVs, on Warchant TV. It lists him, the profile lists him at 190. He's 225. He's 5'11", 225. So he's not slight of build.
Yeah, he's a pretty thick kid. I saw him a few times this week, and very thick kid. I think it's funny, Tom, because I think people, they see all these pictures I put up when these guys visit, and they think a certain size, and then they think the heights. Like, guys, when they're taking these pictures, and most of the time the kid is below the curve and the coach is standing on the curve. So I think they feel like they're taller or shorter than they really are, and they're not. I mean, he's about what I checked out, as far as, height and weight. And certainly I think a guy that they spent a lot of time with based on what I heard from the 2-day visit. But really, for me, it's just the value of the NIL and how much they push. Really, we'll see if it fits both sides.
That's the trick that Sean McDonough pulls when he's in the booth. You saw him on the call today,
Yeah.
but they put him on a big box because that dude's like 5'3", 5'4", but he's got to be in the shot with his analysts. So that's funny. Everything's about perspective. Sherry Brown asks, anything on the Branch brothers from USC with Deuce coming on board? I've seen Michael at, I think Georgia's in play, and I forget the other school that's in play. But
yeah, I think I think they're visiting Miami today. I think the main schools are Georgia, Tennessee. That's the two schools I've heard the most. More so Georgia, Arizona State. Shout out to our man Kenny, man. Like, dude, you're so close. I was rooting like crazy for you, but love Kenny. Had a lot of great memories with Kenny when he was here at FSU, and but I mean, Arizona State is a school that's very high. I've heard on this list. I think Arizona State, Georgia are the two teams, and then I think Miami's trying to get in there as well as Tennessee. But no, there's no Florida State in there, and that's kind of a two-deal package where you have to take him and his brother. I don't think FSU is in the package deal type of things. It's like if they're sold on somebody, that's the downside of the relationships and how genuine they are. They're going to be straightforward and like they know like there might be Zion's Zach's really good, but the other one, if he doesn't fit, they're not going to sit there and bullcrap with you. They're going to say, hey, I don't think this will work. So I just don't see a push there.
The good news for Georgia is they got plenty of time now to recruit.
They do.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
How about that? Notre Dame. Yeah, I got to see them up close, so I was not surprised at that game. When I watched them, I thought that was a very explosive team on defense. So kudos to Marcus Freeman and the Irish. And hey, I guess Kirk's going to have something to talk about tomorrow on his show about the SEC again.
Oh well, he's never been afraid to be delusional. So we welcome the next tweet, the next angry tweet. Guy asks, and everybody in Athens, be careful on the roads out there. Guy asks, Michael, based on your needs, what grade would you give Florida State's portal class at this point?
Well, man, you got Guy, you got to start reading my articles. I did the grades earlier this week or last week, and I gave grade. I think the general grade, the average was B plus with a lot of positions. You look at. I got some emails and stuff of people sharing their view, but I tried to be very pessimistic on the grades because I didn't want to be too high. But I think the one position that you never just you just keep circling to is the offensive line. That was the only A I gave out. What I just felt like it was not an A plus, but it was an A, and the only reason I didn't put A plus is because there was a few that they missed on, and then two. I would like to see another tackle in there. If they could squeeze that in, that would really solidify that. But overall, I gave them an A. I think every other position was B or B plus. And I thought I was extremely fair. But Guy, go check it out, man. The article's on the front page. You can look it up. I gave the grades for what I think they've done in the portal so far. So check it out. But I think overall, it's been pretty solid, Tom.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think we did this song and dance last year, and we talked about it just before Christmas. Everybody was panicking, and they're saying,
Yes.
when is this happening? Last year, I know we didn't like the results of what happened that season, but it went from, oh my God, they're not going to get anybody, to we're doing a dozen reaction videos in the span of a few days. And this year has kind of followed that same format where it starts slow, everybody's kind of looking at each other, and then bam, Florida State addresses a lot of things.
Yeah, I think they're starting to get some praise for that work too now, where I think On3 had them in the top 10, I want to say 6. And then we saw different other networks giving them some love of what they've done in the portal. Yeah, I mean, are they going to be number one in the portal? Probably not, but it's not about being number one. It's about getting top guys that are going to impact your team. And I think if you look across the board, whether it's edge, offensive line, quarterback, even receiver, tight end, all those positions, I think they're really addressing, and that's why they've got a high grade from a lot of these people and be in the top 10 portal class.
If you're saying, Michael, what website do you write for? What are we talking about? Well, it's right above our heads. It's warchant.com is the website. Head there now in a different tab and sign up and get a great deal while you're doing so. It's called the 150 special. It's $1 for a week of access to warchant.com. So if you just want to poke around, take a look at the premium recruiting board, which is also doubling as the transfer portal board. That's where Michael Langston runs the show. Matt Lasser does a wonderful job with Michael presenting you the latest portal coverage. The Tribal Council is where we do the team side of the operation. It's the largest FSU fan community on the web in the industry. So if you want to, yuck it up with other Florida State fans about anything, we've got a basketball board, a baseball board. Join us at warchant.com. It's $1 for 7 days of access, followed by 50% off your first year. And for those of you in 2025 that are members already, we want to help you. We want to upgrade your experience. Upgrade to Warchant Gold. It's an ad-free experience. If you do, we're going to throw you $20 to Garnet and Gold. $20 to Garnet and Gold as a thank you, plus 15% off all your Garnet and Gold purchases while your membership is active. That's a 5% bonus off of a standard Warchant membership. So the money comes right back into your pocket. And in a way, really it's a profitable move for you if you're already a member of warchant.com. So a couple of ways to join us on the website. It's always free here on Warchant TV, but if you want that inside information, and if you want the latest news and the fun of looking at message boards, not just for Florida State, Michael, but you can watch other fan bases melt down. If you're a member of Warchant, you can go to all the boards and watch people get pissed off about their own coaching staffs and their own transfer portal problems. It's a lot of fun.
You can go to the Miami board and ask them why Cam Moore didn't play in the second half, or just watch the meltdown as some explicit reason the quarterback didn't play in the second half. I'm assuming because they broke the record, but you can go in there, you can watch it, just melt down and have fun with it. You can go on different boards, and there's a lot of different things we offer. I even offer on the PRB. I give a special thing where you guys can kick my butt in fantasy football, where we let all the Warchant subscribers in there, and it's fun. We play. I hardly ever win, but which probably makes a lot of people happy. But we give a lot of different things in this deal, man. That you can't find a better deal than that. So definitely go check that out. Go to Garnet Gold, guys. You can't beat that deal.
Eric is wondering, and now it's time to look forward here in the last 10 minutes or so of tonight's program. Which current under-the-radar portal commit do you think has the best chance to surpass expectations? All right, so they're a signee, they're on board, but they got a chance to make us smile. Is there somebody that sticks out to you, Michael?
I really like this Deontay McCray guy at the edge position. I think he's thick. He causes a lot of problems. You look at the reps he gets, the amount of different stats that he puts up in a lot of different ways. That guy stands out to me. I like him a lot. Blocked a field goal in their bowl game. Just is a consistent guy that just creates havoc. And that's what I look for. Like, a lot of people look for different things on defense, but I look at what guy is screwing stuff up for everyone on the offensive side. And I think Deontay does a lot of that, where if I was picking one, I mean, he's one that kind of just, jumps out to me when I watch it. And I'm not going to pick the obvious ones like James Williams. So I want to pick one that doesn't get as much pub, but I think Deontay McCray's one that I liked.
And that's another one. You look at his profile here, it says 245. He's carrying 285 these days. This is a large edge rusher.
Yeah, he's massive. And that's why I told him I joked with Deontay, and I think we were joking with the media out there, and it's like you watch him and you look at him, and even the pictures I showed, people were kind of like, no, there's no way he's 280. He is 280. He just holds his body weight really good. He doesn't look like that size, but I think overall a guy that, I've liked a lot. Just I like a stat packer, just that's going to get a lot of different stats in a lot of different ways and cause havoc. And I think he does that.
For me, I'll answer that as well. Randy Pittman from UCF
There you go.
is the guy for me. That's such an important position in Gus's offense. This is somebody who's coming from Gus's offense, so he knows it inside and out. That's so valuable, Michael, that, if he's trying to message to other tight ends or guys in the offensive line, Randy can pull players aside and say, well, this is what he actually wants. And it's a player who's produced the last 2 seasons, 50 catches for 600 yards the last 2 years. I mean, again, you think about that offense and what happened to us in the championship game 11 years ago. That seam pass is a killer. If you can get the running game going, that seam pass is a killer. I know Florida State's got a lot of talent at tight end, but Randy Pittman is not only going to help the young kids, get acclimated to the position quicker, like Landon Thomas, or if Amari Williams stays at that position, or the young kid out of Nebraska that's going to be a true freshman, he's going to produce himself in year one. That's a good get.
Yeah, and that's he was in my Elite Eight. He was my final one that I put in there just for the reasons that you just gave, Tom. Shout out to the Mosley Dolphins. That's where he played, over near the Panama City area. Randy's one heck of a talent. You cannot, when you have a guy that can really just stretch everything on the defense like Randy does with his just his ability to get open. I think that's just going to open up everything when you have, whether it's Landon or you have other guys that are coming in, that it really just opens up the whole offense when you have somebody can hit the seam, like you said. And I think overall, I like that pick. That's a good one.
Looking forward is William Flynn, and he says, any fresh names following tonight's games to look for? And I suppose we can take that 2 ways. Maybe from Georgia, because they're done for the season, but also in seriousness, just anything that you want to preview in the weekend ahead for Florida State, maybe some kids they're bringing on campus or names you're hearing.
I mean, man, I think most of them we know. I've been in FSU for 9 hours, William, so I didn't really see much of what was out there outside of the teams playing. So I'll have to study it. Might be some guys on Georgia that certainly I'll look into, but I haven't really. I don't think there's really a main one that I'm kind of looking for that a visit, but as we've seen and I've seen and my phone has seen consistently, changes a lot really quick with these visits. So I do think there's going to be some more, visitors when we hit that Friday, because right now we're in the end of the first little cycle of visits that started, on January 1st. And then now you get to the January 4th. There's probably going to be some kids that visit January 4th and 5th, to kind of squeeze out everything. So I do think there'll be a few more, but I don't think there's any like I would just highlight that. I'm looking for them to visit FSU yet.
So ad drop closes January 9th, but it's a soft closing for ad drop because that's the ad drop deadline without a dean's permission. If Florida State wants to get a player out of the playoffs or something along, I'm sure the dean is going to sign off on a kid enrolling later than January 9th.
And most of these rules are soft anyway when it comes to the NCAA. So most of them extend a little bit, but I do think you'll see a few in there. I have seen some visits set up for like January 6th and even some push it to the 7th, but I think most of them, I think FSU would like to get, the 5th. But like I said, this stuff's fairly fluid, guys. I mean, the Squirrel White one just came out today. And, it's like, oh, he's visiting FSU. Oh, I look up, I turn around and there's Squirrel White on campus at FSU pulling up in the car. So, I mean, this stuff's very fluid. So I would expect there to be more when we hit that Friday, Saturday, time. By the way, shout out our guy Matt's going to be back on Friday, so he'll be back over there, certainly covering, and I'll be out there some as well. But I think, I do think there'll be a few more, and there's always a new guy that's in there. It's really just if you get what you want, then and maybe that'll lessen down. So I think it really depends on the commits and what they pick up. But overall, I expect more.
Last question. This is a football question for the night. This is philosophical.
Okay.
Maybe some of the things you've heard from the kids, because Michael, I think you said somebody was speaking to the schematics of what they heard. It might have been Squirrel, or it might have been Rasul, about what the pitch that Florida State was giving. Mitch says, I know Gus is going to be calling the offense, but do you think Mike will still have some input? I think he'll have some, but this is Gus's offense, right? Right, Michael? What do you think?
Yeah, and you got to remember, Gus had Mike on his staff, so Mike trusts him a lot, and that's the one thing. And this is his offense. So, do I think they'll talk? Sure. It was kind of a funny moment today, not to change subjects, but a truck pulled up, and it was and Mike was getting ready to agree to recruit, and it was Gus that popped out. He's like, "Oh." Oh shoot! And it was kind of a funny and lighthearted moment, but it was like I told Gus, like, "Oh, don't worry, you'll be important when it means something for him." So, but overall, I think, I just think it's going to be Gus's offense and what they do. I do think Mike will, throw some things that he feels like could help, but I don't think you're going to see a situation where it's like, it isn't his offense. I think you're going to feel pretty comfortable that, hey, this is what Gus wants to run. And it shows with the guys they've added, especially at the quarterback position and just what they're doing and how they're loading up at, just loading up rooms like the running back room and stuff like that. So I think overall this will be Gus's thing.
As Michael has said, expect the unexpected as we enter the weekend. It is, as Herb Hand has said, speed dating for recruiting.
Yes,
This is,
I love it.
It happens very fast. It's a rapidly developing world to cover. So make sure you tune into warchant.com for the latest on the blow-by-blow of, oh, this kid's visiting now out of nowhere, or this kid is not going to visit because he decided to shut it down. It just moves very fast. The Premium Recruiting Board is your home for all that news. Michael, anything else you want to promote before we sign off for the evening?
No, I just want to give a big thanks to a lot of our staff. Iris helped out a big deal. A lot of people just see, oh, he's the managing editor, but he does a lot of stuff that's outside of his realm of what he does, that probably has to do. And certainly he helps out a lot. I think all our guys have, helped out a lot, just getting this done. And it's just been, kind of a wild ride with this portal. We'll have a lot more stuff coming up. I will have a recruiting wrap when I have time to kind of you know kind of decipher a little bit and break it down. But I think overall, I think my whole takeaway of this is I've been pretty pleased, better than expected for this cycle, because I did not think they would address as many needs as they did. So we'll certainly have a lot more coming up. I'll even maybe break down, some more portal stuff. We'll have more features coming up, but hopefully we'll get up with some of these guys that have visited, and we'll see. But overall, I like the direction. I will say this too. There's a lot of complaints of, like, when they first started in December, where they're like, well, they're getting the second, third visit, and they're not getting to that visit, and the kids are committing to other places. I think they were much more aggressive in this January cycle, where they got the first visit in there. So I think you see a lot of learning on the go really quick. As far, I'm not saying it was a mistake, but kind of just, if we covet somebody, get them on campus really early. I think Rasul is our Faison's a really good example of that, where he hadn't taken any visits, and bam, you got him on there, and now they kind of set the tone as far as the rest of the time. So I think overall, this staff has done an incredible job. It really blows my mind how much things have changed with the additions they've done, and even what they did finishing in high school. I think we'll see if these guys can really coach. But I can tell you this: they really recycled and got it going, and got it back in a positive, direction as far as roster. Because we didn't really know, Tom, how they were going to orchestrate this, because it looked really doom and gloom of, okay, are they going to have enough players to play a football season? But overall, I think my whole take from this, since the firings and the hirings, I think they've really, the response has been very strong. But we'll have a lot more portal stuff coming up next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and even beyond if there's more visits. So I'm interested to see how this goes. And then we'll have some junior days. I hear there's going to be some on January 11th and January 18th. That's something to look forward to. I'm sure it's going to be like 30 degrees out there freezing, so I'll get used to that. But overall, you're going to finishing it off with the portal, and maybe a few more in high school for the 2025 class, which signing day, I think people forget, that is in February for the later signing period. And then we kind of move quickly, turn the page really quick to 2026, where we start this cycle all over again.
It is in constant motion. We look forward to all the coverage that's coming in the next few weeks and the next month. But you're right, the momentum kind of flipped from the early signing day Wednesday through that Friday, when there was just a one flip after another flip after another flip, or a 50-50 goes Florida State's way on a Thursday or a Friday, and it continued right on to the portal. So make sure to join us at warchant.com for more of that information. We'll be back here if there's any breaking news and commits, maybe one with a linebacker. I don't know. It seems like it's trending that way here on Warchant TV. Can I say the word subscribe to the channel? There we go. And our content will appear on your home screen when you open up the app on your phone, or you head over to youtube.com on the old computer machine. You will find us right there on your homepage. Subscribe. I said it. There you go. Absolutely free. Hit the like button underneath the video. Thanks to Patrick for his contribution tonight with the monetary sense of it. But thanks to everybody who brought questions to the table here tonight in the chat. Again, hit the like button on the way out. Director Ben Spicer behind the scenes doing an awesome job. Thanks to Michael Langston. And, of course, to our sponsor, State Farm agent Russ Voorhis. I'm Tom Lang, everybody. Have a great night, and we will talk to you very, very soon on Warchant TV. Happy New Year. Go Dogs.